Hello. I would like to tell you a story about my future mother-in-law. I met my boyfriend 5 years ago. My boyfriend was the one who used to come to the yoga academy I attended. In fact, when it comes to yoga, it's a place where women mostly come. But a man suddenly came and was very flexible during all the difficult moves. It was so new that my eyes went straight to him. He was also handsome, so not only me, but also my friend couldn't take her eyes off of him. I was single, so I guess it was a natural phenomenon. Anyway, the man who I didn't know would become my boyfriend was concentrating on yoga so hard that I felt he was amazing because he was performing each one of the movements as if he was meditating. I'm sure he sees that people are staring at him, but isn't it amazing? His flexibility is astounding too. I know. I heard that he's the owner of the chicken restaurant here. The owner? Yeah, that's what I heard. The chicken restaurant I heard about from my friend was a restaurant I had been waiting to visit for some time. More than anything, I absolutely love chicken. I heard that it was new and the interior was clean. Since I was going to drop by one day, and if the man owned it, I decided to drop by after work. But when I finally went there, that guy wasn't there. I guess he didn't come there every day and only his workers were there. The taste of the chicken was amazing and the beer was great, but I was a bit disappointed that the one I was looking for wasn't there for some reason. Still, it was a bit wasteful to give up, so the next day I had to go back to the chicken restaurant with a friend. To be honest, I was worried whether I was being too obvious, but luckily this time the man was there. He even took orders himself. I felt I couldn't let go of my golden chance, so I purposely stared at him intensely. Then the man said to me first, "Oh, you look familiar. Don't you go to that yoga center?" "Oh, did you recognize me?" "Of course. You're beautiful, so I can recognize you at once." Thinking about it now, it was a pretty direct comment, but the man said it casually and left, and I felt an unexpected charm with that was an obvious come-on smirk of his. Then I kept glancing at the guy as I ate the chicken. From then on, I went to the chicken restaurant almost once every 3 days, almost like a time clock. To be honest, I wanted to go there every day and eat chicken, but I thought it would be too obvious. It was my way of playing hard to get. About a month after that, one day when I was going to the chicken restaurant as usual, the owner came to me and thanked me for coming often and gave me an order of chicken on the house. "Wow, a whole chicken order on the house? Thank you." "Well, thank you for liking our chicken. Thank you for always coming." "I'm more grateful. Chicken is my favorite food. But besides chicken, can you give me something else? For example, a phone number or..." To be honest, I didn't know that I was such a courageous woman who could be so brave in front of the guy I fell in love with. Drinking alcohol played a part, but seeing a handsome man in front of me gave me that kind of courage. The owner blushed as if he was taken aback by my words, and asked me for my cell phone and punched in his number himself on my phone. After I came to my senses, I was too embarrassed and left the chicken and hurried out of the store. But anyway, I got his phone number, so that was a success. After that, I contacted the owner privately and we started to meet somewhere other than his chicken restaurant. Not only was he handsome in appearance, but his personality was very easygoing, and I felt head over heels for him. In fact, when I talked to him, he was a good man with a lot of things we could relate to each other. My mother and father also ran a chicken restaurant in the past, and they have been running a store for more than 20 years. So, when I was talking with him, a lot of things I had heard from my parents would pop up. His easygoing and modest personality impressed me, and I felt comfortable and close to him at the same time. And it didn't even take a year before we started talking about marriage. Now that we are older, why don't we talk about getting married? I think I could be with you for the rest of my life. More than anything, I want to make your dreams come true." "Thank you, Stephen." "Then, will you marry me?" At that time, although I was working, my dream was to paint a great picture with my name on it someday. If things went well, I also wanted to hold an art exhibition, but in order to do that, I would have to leave my job and focus only on painting. But due to the nature of my job, I couldn't do that because I was busy every day. My boyfriend told me that if I married him, I wouldn't have to suffer or have to work, and just stayed at home as his housewife. He proposed to me with those words. Of course, I'll achieve my dream on my own, but I was so grateful to my boyfriend who thought of me. And I immediately accepted his proposal to get married, and I went to see my future mother-in-law. But before we went, my boyfriend hesitantly but cautiously warned me about his mother. From then on, I felt uneasy somewhat. "Baby, I have to tell you that my mom talks somewhat harshly than other people. She's also stubborn. But you don't have to pay too much attention to what my mom says. You know what I mean?" "Oh, I see. Okay." According to my boyfriend, his mother was stubborn and very direct. Even when we were dating, I often heard about my prospective mother-in-law. She inherited her husband's business and managed the company herself, but it went bankrupt. Because she lived her whole life as a rich person, she was very proud of herself. So I just thought that she had a more stubborn personality than others. But as soon as I entered her house to meet her for the first time, I felt the prospective mother-in-law was looking me up and down, and she was a little different from what I thought. How can I express the impression I got? It was as if she was looking at the impurities floating in milk. She looked at me with that feeling and threw a word. "Because my son is bringing a woman to be his bride, so I thought someone from a rich family or something. Anyhow, you're here, so come in." "Thank you." From the first meeting with her, I was completely bewildered. Even so, how could she openly embarrass a guest like that? After she asked me to come in, she continued to ask me rude questions. But she had such a strong personality, as I answered her rude questions, I became less confident, and the sound of my voice started to decrease. "So, what did you say your father's job was?" "My mother and father both run a store in the farmer's market. It's a small donut shop. The store has been running for 10 years now." "In the farmer's market? Then they're just a local merchant. How did you meet Steve?" "Oh, we met while attending the same yoga center. Since he runs a chicken restaurant, we became close since I go there often." "Did you seduce him first?" "I beg your pardon?" "Never mind. So, where did you go to college? Is it in New York?" "Oh, I graduated from a university out of the area." "So you just graduated from a vocational college?" As my expression darkened, my boyfriend brought up a new subject as if to change the atmosphere. "Mom, Julie says that her mother and father also ran a chicken restaurant like me. So, from the beginning, we communicated well. When I met her, there was no one like her. She cares for me, and I want to be with her for the rest of my life. She's such a kind and good person." But as soon as my boyfriend said that, his mother's expression hardened. She contorted her eyebrows with her displeased expression and frowned at me and said, "You have 2 chicken restaurants. How could you compare yours with theirs?" "Mom." "I'm sorry, Julie. My mom must be a bit sensitive today." "Mom, why the hell do you humiliate me in front of a guest?" "Seriously, are you even disciplining me, your mother, now that you brought a girl?" "Hey, Julie, did you make my son like this?" "I don't know anything else, and I invited you to tell that I oppose this marriage. I can't allow it. At least the level of daughter-in-law I'll accept must be a daughter of someone with a mid-sized company, or she has to be a professional. But you are neither. Your educational level is below average even. Mom, how can you judge people only by something like that? You had promised me to meet her a few more times before you judge. I get it after a first impression on people at times too. At first glance, I know right away whether she is a girl with money or not, or is she a girl who knows how to take care of elders? But she falls short on all of that. Then, why do I have to keep meeting her? Leave now. I'm tired. Mom, are you really going to do this? Why are you embarrassing me like this? The psychological shock I received at the time, how could I be compensated for that? Really, the shock was too great. I heard the words that I hadn't heard since I was born, all at once from the mouth of my boyfriend's mother. I even felt like my entire life had been denied. I went into depression for a while and even had to go to the hospital to be treated and decided to reconsider marrying my boyfriend. My boyfriend came to me and even wept and begged me. He said he couldn't go on without me, but I didn't listen to him. It wasn't until I met my future mother-in-law that I thought marriage was the only thing I wanted to do if we just loved each other. But no matter how much she was the mother of the person I loved, I couldn't handle her. I thought the sacrifice would be too much. So I just made up my mind and said, I'm sorry, Stephen, but I think we've come to an end. I can't understand your mother how she treats people. Even if I get permission to marry you now, I am afraid that she'll continue to interfere with our marriage. Since your mother went on a hunger strike to oppose our marriage, I think it'll be better for both of us to break up here. Baby, you can't. Please listen to me just once more. I'll convince my mother somehow. It can be done. Trust me just once, please. My boyfriend clung to me and begged. He seemed to be desperate and even came to my workplace and asked me to trust him just once because he could persuade his mother. After all, he was the person I loved at the time, so my heart ached. Still, I couldn't change my decision, so I thought about it. I went to visit his mother once for my boyfriend. Mother, I know you don't like me. I like Stephen. No, I love Stephen. I know that most of the girls Stephen has met so far were girls with better backgrounds than me. But as you must know, I don't think marriage can be achieved with just those conditions. I think love and sincerity for each other are more important. You may not like me right now, but I would appreciate it if you would watch over me just once. Really, it was a request that I made politely, giving up all my pride. I had never bowed down to anyone this much in my life, but I was able to do it because I loved my boyfriend. After saying that, I was quietly waiting for her reaction, but she seemed to be thinking about my words for a while. She told me to go home, and she said she would pass the word on to her son. I thought she would go on a rampage, shouting at me for trying to teach her, but I was taken aback by her withdrawn attitude. And that night, the doorbell rang, and my boyfriend was standing there. I approached my boyfriend trembling, and the moment he hugged me, overjoyed that his mother had finally permitted us to marry, I was so relieved. Really? Is that true? Will your mother allow us to get married? Thank you, Julie. Thank you so much. It wouldn't have been easy for you to visit my mother, but thank you so much for having the courage and persuading her. And she told me to make sure to tell you that she thought she said too harshly and that she was sorry. Really? Did your mother even say that? After that, I also received a text message from my future mother-in-law saying that she was sorry. And with a much lighter heart, I happily reserved a wedding hall with my boyfriend and went around looking for a dress for our wedding preparations. I don't think I had ever been as happy as I was then. Even now, when I think about it, I remember it as a beautiful moment. I showed my boyfriend to my parents too. Fortunately, my parents also liked my boyfriend. However, from the moment we set the date for the meeting of both sides of our family and started preparing for the wedding in earnest, things started to go awry. My parents, who came from the countryside, which was far away, met with my boyfriend and me at first at a restaurant, and we were waiting for my future mother-in-law while talking briefly. Suddenly, my future mother-in-law called that she was sick and went to the hospital. Is your mother okay? Is she very sick? What should we do? I don't know. She's getting some tests at the hospital right now. I am very sorry for my mother-in-law and father-in-law, but I think we'll have to postpone the date. It's okay to postpone the date, but I hope she's okay anyway, and I'm worried. Hurry and go to the hospital now. I'll see my parents off. Will you? I'm really sorry, Julie. My boyfriend rushed to the hospital. Since she was also my future mother-in-law, I was worried that she was very sick, and I thought about going to the hospital. But my boyfriend said I didn't have to do that. I stayed at home. My parents came from far away, and they had to go back a long way again, so we couldn't talk for a long time. I only sent them off with a promise to set another time. My parents were also very worried because my future mother-in-law's age was getting there. But I heard later that she had a mild stomach upset. You said she just had an upset stomach? Yeah. She must have been scared because her stomach still hurt even when she took some medicine. She said she called 911. My mother has a healthy anxiety even before, so she gets scared of the slightest symptoms. Oh, I see. Anyway, it is not a big deal, so I'm glad. Actually, it was a little strange that she called 911 to the hospital emergency room because she had an upset stomach. But as my boyfriend said, his mother must have gotten scared and I just passed it over. Because she was alone, I thought it could happen when my future mother-in-law's health got better. We rescheduled our meeting date. On that day, I was nervous without even realizing it, maybe because we were finally meeting each other. I was talking with my parents who came up from the countryside once more while we waited for my future mother-in-law at a restaurant. But my mother-in-law still didn't show up, even though it was past 30 minutes from our appointment. Why isn't your mother here? Did something happen? Honey, I know, I've called her several times, but she doesn't answer. Mother and father, I'm sorry, but I'll just make one more call. My boyfriend must have noticed that my parents were waiting, so he left the room once again to call his mom. But he said that she didn't answer his calls. In the end, the dinner meeting with my parents got cancelled again. My mom and dad were also worried about her, so they couldn't go back, and we hurriedly went to my future mother-in-law's house to find out what had happened. When I opened her front door and went in to knock on our bedroom door, after a while, she came out rubbing her eyes with her sleepy face. Mom, what the hell are you doing that with your pajamas on? Did you forget that today was our dinner meeting with Julie's parents? Dinner meeting? Oh my gosh, I didn't know. I forgot it. Did your in-laws leave? Mom, how could you forget that? We are all waiting. Don't make a fuss. What's such a big deal? We could always reschedule. Julie, set another date. My future mother-in-law said. I'll meet them next time. Without changing her expression, she ordered me. It was really crazy. It was as if I was the one who had done wrong, yet she was venting her anger on her son for no reason. When my boyfriend continued to nag at his mother, I told you, I said I overslept. I'm not usually a person who sleeps late, but it is because I haven't been feeling well these days. But are you guys still going to be there? I'm tired, so I need to get some sleep. Seeing her carefree expression, I even wondered if we were making too much fuss over her. So, when I set the third and last meeting, I wondered again about her canceling it this time without even realizing it. Even my boyfriend couldn't hide his uncomfortable face, and it's nasty to describe it like this, but he fidgeted like a dog that needed to poop. Fortunately, this time, my future mother-in-law showed up a little earlier than the promised time, as if there was a request from my boyfriend, but she didn't even say a word. Such a sorry for not being able to come out twice and made my parents come up from the countryside. Besides, she was somehow cold in her attitude toward my parents. By the way, are you feeling okay? We heard that you were sick the other day. The weather is cold these days, so you should take care of yourself. Yes, I'm okay. But why not order the food now? I haven't eaten since this morning, so I'm hungry. And she kept being so cold, half-heartedly listening to my mom's questions and not answering her with her roundabout ways. Then, she suddenly asked my parents about our newlywed home. By the way, there's something I want to ask you. When do you plan on buying a home for the kids? Where are you thinking and what size? Since the kids work in New York, you must be thinking of New York City, right? Mom, why are you saying all of a sudden? I told you, we'll prepare the place ourselves. What do you mean? Your in-laws should be capable, so couldn't they buy a house for your newlyweds? Isn't that right? At my future mother-in-law's remarks about our newlywed home, my mom looked at me quickly. She was perplexed at what she was saying. I was equally bewildered. While preparing for the wedding, I had discussed everything with her about our newlywed home and wedding matters. But I didn't know why she was bringing this up now. However, her odd behavior, which I didn't know why, continued. So, did you really intend to leave the kids home to Stephen and Julie? No matter how much they say they would take care of it, it is not right. I heard that you have been running a store for a long time and are quite successful being self-employed. For this time, aren't you able to buy the kids their newlywed home? My son happened to have his restaurant in New York City here, so I have looked into a condo near his restaurant, which would be great. It's just $3 million. So would you like to go see it? I'm sorry, but why don't we talk about this later? That's right, Mom. We'll take care of it on our own. That subject is already decided. My mom tried to settle the situation for now and said she would discuss it with us later again. But at once, my future mother-in-law showed signs of her disappointment and frowned. My mother's and father's faces all at once turned red. It was as if they became parents who couldn't even take care of their child because they didn't have the ability. The person who led it that way was my prospective mother-in-law. Because of the sudden rude words of my prospective mother-in-law, the atmosphere at the dinner suddenly cooled down, and my dad also looked disappointed at my future mother-in-law's attitude, and his face was getting redder. But my future mother-in-law's bombshell remarks continued. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention this. I hope you'll come prepared with the items on the list for the wedding gift that would fit to our standard in order for your daughter to marry my son, so please check. What? Cash of $30,000 and a luxury brand foreign car? A VIP one-year membership at New York Dermatology Clinic? Why are you looking so surprised? You didn't even consider that much, did you? This is hardly enough for your daughter to get married to my son. I gave up a lot in consideration of your situation. If it were for another family, we would have asked for a lot more. I think it's the etiquette to do at least that much to marry into our family. I'm sorry, but I don't think this makes any sense. Let's talk it over slowly. But it is not something to decide right here. My mom looked flustered and tried to talk politely. My future mother-in-law blew up at her. I can't believe it! How could you say these wedding gifts are too much? Then, were you going to just marry your daughter off with nothing? Aren't you being too shameless? Don't you know what is my son's status to which your daughter is marrying into? Why do you think I canceled the dinner appointment twice? Your daughter came to me and begged, saying that marriage was not based on background, but how she felt. She has the gall to be bold, and when she's so young trying to teach me, I couldn't believe it. So I was showing her the reality. How important is the family educational background? The marriage should be done with a similar financial background, with similar family standards. What? Did you purposely not show up to meet with us? Then, what did you think? If you have a head on your shoulders and can't think, why would my son who graduated from an Ivy League college from a rich family marry a girl who graduated from a vocational college from a family who runs a small store in a farmer's market? Do you think they are compatible? How could they? When my future mother-in-law said that, my mom and dad became shocked, and I couldn't even say anything, just trembling in anger, and grabbed my mom's hand to just leave. I felt so guilty for asking my parents to be there, facing my despicable future mother-in-law. They raised me well, and why do they have to face such a shameful situation with me? I swallowed my tears and quickly got up from the table to leave. Then, my dad seemed unable to control his anger and looked directly at my future mother-in-law and said, "You will regret what you just said." Then, my future mother-in-law sneered at him. "Regret? What regret? For us to be entangled with your family would have been my regret for the rest of my life. Let's not ever see each other." She sneered so shamelessly. I sobbed all the way back to my place in my dad's car. I was too ashamed to even look at my parents, so I cried silently. My mom seemed to know how I felt and quietly just held my hand. Then, my dad took me home and said warmly, "Don't be hurt, Julie. There are many bad people like her in this world. But if you get shaken by those kinds of people, you are being too weak. I told you that, right?" My dad should have been more upset, but he rather comforted me warmly. Even after that day, they kept calling me for several days. I heard later from my mom that my dad felt sorry for me when I was treated something like that by my future mother-in-law, and he drank a bottle of whiskey and had tears in his eyes even. They must have suffered a lot because of me, but after watching them go back to their work, I gritted my teeth and vowed to forget that happened, and purposely I laughed more and immersed myself into my work. After our engagement was broken, I heard something shocking. It was about my ex-boyfriend. One day, my friend who heard about my broken engagement, she said that I was lucky that my engagement got broken. It wasn't a voice just saying it out of politeness, but she sounded very sincere in congratulating me for my broken engagement. When I asked her what she meant, and what I heard was a shock in itself. "Actually, I didn't like your boyfriend. Because you were thinking of marrying him, I couldn't say it. But he was pretty dirty with complicated affairs with many women. Moreover, he went around bragging about his restaurant. He even used to say when he was with his drinking pals that even though your family did not have money, he was accommodating you, as if he was doing you a favor. No matter whether he was drunk, how could he say that if he didn't feel that about you?" At first, I was too shocked to hear that, so I just passed the whole day feeling blank. But when I heard the truth about my ex-boyfriend, I felt it was good that we broke up. The last yearning that was left in me disappeared, and I started to come to my senses. Then, one day, my dad came up to give me something. I was perplexed at my dad's sudden visit, but he hesitated a minute and handed me over a piece of document. When I looked at the document, I was shocked and just stared at my dad. "Dad, what is this? Why is the owner of this building in Manhattan is in your name?" Julie, do you remember that I had a piece of land that I bought a long time ago? Actually, a few years ago. The price of that land skyrocketed, and I came to get a lot of money for it. With that money, I made an investment which hit the jackpot, so I was able to buy that building. The reason I didn't tell you is because I was worried that this sudden wealth might ruin your future, when you were working so hard to build a future on your own. All of the money we have will be yours eventually anyways, so I felt I didn't have to rush. Your mom and I didn't want you to lose the feeling of achievement and pride from working, but after what we went through, our thoughts changed. First, since you are in New York City, I want you to manage this building. I'm sure that you will do well. I trust you. My father told me as he held my hands tightly. I sat there blankly while my dad told me that. I knew my dad had a piece of land, but I didn't know it had progressed this much. As if he understood I would be shocked, he gave me time to digest it all. When I calmed down, he told me, Julie, but I don't want you to charge high rent from your tenants like other people. I don't want to get rich off the merchants who are working so hard and struggling for money. You do know what I mean, right? Yes, Dad. I'll do as you say. Only then I could get hold of myself and nodded to my dad. As I went back home, I thought about what my dad said to me. When I assessed my dad's life, he stressed being modest and working hard, and I could understand why my dad did not tell me about the building in advance. After the building title was transferred to my name, as my father wished, I rented out the spaces at much lower prices than the market price. Then, a lot of people came to apply for the rental. Among them, I met an unexpected person. That was my ex-boyfriend. The one who talked disrespectfully about me behind my back. And next to him was another despicable person. I heard the rumor that my ex-boyfriend's 2 chicken restaurant failed and he was preparing to get a job. But his mother must have gotten a loan and came to my building for a space to open up another restaurant. I guess you meet your enemy at a place you least expected. My ex-boyfriend was shocked to see me as if he saw a ghost. His mother looked at me with a displeased look so blatantly and said, Julie, why are you here? What do you mean why? My real estate agent called me, so I came here to sign a contract. You make me laugh. Then, are you even a building owner? We have to meet a very important person, so get out of here quickly. We don't have time to waste talking to you. She was the same as before. As I looked at her, I realized that people never change. Right then, the real estate agent said, She's the building owner. By any chance, do you know each other? What? You're the owner of this building? How could you? You said your parents just had a small shop in the farmer's market. That's right. My mom and dad work at the farmer's market, but people who work there can't own a building? Now that you have come here to look at a space, I'll tell you first. Because I rent out the spaces in my building at a much lower rent than the other places, I want the benefit to go to the people who live sincerely and work hard. So I don't think I could offer it to you or to your son. I can't believe this. They couldn't believe what I was saying and just looked at me, blinking their eyes. And I just poured out everything that I wanted to tell them. So don't act so tacky and judge people with money. How dare you to act that way when you didn't know where you would meet up with me again? How could you cancel the dinner meeting for those stupid reasons? From now on, you should make sure to have manners. If you got that much money, read some books on etiquette and build up some humanity. I blurted that out and left, but the woman who almost became my mother-in-law as if trying to cling on me, came to see me. Even though I refused to see her, she even came to my workplace and was adamant. Darling, I'll apologize for my bad behavior. A family gets closer by having conflicts and fights. So don't be angry, and couldn't you give me one more chance? Please leave. It's my working hours. Why are you here? You're interfering with my work. Have you forgotten my son altogether? If it's too hard to accept my apologies, then please just rent us your space. We are having a hard time too. With your rent, we are able to have another chance. If you don't want to be ashamed, just leave. At least you should know the shame. Before I say harsh words, just leave. But no matter how harshly I shouted at her, she wouldn't budge, so I had to call the security to kick her out of the building. She was so stubborn and persistent. I was even more surprised at her tenacity. She only knew her son was important and didn't consider other people's children. When she acted so cowardly in front of my dad's wealth, it was a shame to just watch her by myself of her pathetic behavior. I am living as if I have a new life by forgetting my past. After that incident, I took a vacation time from work to travel and had a good time with my friends to forget the bad feelings. I found a new motivation for living. I decided to think positively about that I had a bad experience in my life. However, my parents worry about me and ask me if I have any boyfriend yet. I'm okay, but my parents seem to worry about that incident. I tell them that I would meet a guy someday to introduce to them, and I'll meet a great in-law, so they shouldn't worry about me. I hope soon they would feel more at ease. I want to take after my great parents and give my children that teaching and their principle to affect the world in a kindly way. I love my parents who gave birth to me, and I love them so much. I am grateful to be your daughter, and I am so proud of you. I am very happy, and I thank you. Please cheer for me and write your comments of wisdom in the comment section. Pressing like and subscription is a big help to me. Take care.